Hey everyone, and welcome. So today we're going to tackle this really fascinating puzzle that's happening inside our very own bodies. We're going to look at three medical problems that seem completely different on the surface, and then we're going to uncover the one powerful thing that links them all together. Let's start by looking at our three medical mysteries.
First up, picture this nightmare scenario. Someone takes one bite of something with peanuts, and just minutes later, they can't breathe. Their throat is closing up. It's a sudden, terrifying life or death situation. That's anaphylaxis for you. Okay, now let's switch gears completely. Imagine you're out for a hike. You brush up against a plant, and you don't even notice it. Nothing happens. But then, 2, maybe 3 days later, this angry, blistering, incredibly itchy rash starts to pop up. That's poison ivy. It's miserable for sure, but it's a slow burn. And for our third piece of this puzzle, let's think about something like lupus. Now, this one's different. It's not about something you touched or ate. This is an internal battle where the body is actually attacking itself, causing this chronic, long-term inflammation and really painful joints.
So you've got this lightning-fast allergic reaction, a super slow rash, and this long, drawn-out internal battle. I mean, what on earth could these possibly have in common? They seem like they're from totally different planets, right?
Well, believe it or not, the answer is that all three of these are something called a hypersensitivity reaction. That's right, it all comes down to your immune system, your body's own defense force, making a big mistake and just completely overreacting.
And here's the official definition, which the Cleveland Clinic puts really well. A hypersensitivity reaction is when your immune system goes on the attack against something it thinks is a threat, but is actually totally harmless. It could be something like pollen, a specific food, or in those autoimmune cases like lupus, it's actually attacking your own healthy cells. So how do we even begin to sort all this out? Well, luckily, scientists came up with a classification system that breaks these overreactions down into 4 different types. And even better, there's a fantastic little mnemonic to help us remember them. Just think of the word ACID. This framework is so helpful for organizing the chaos. The A stands for anaphylactic, C is for cytotoxic, I is for immune complex, and D is for delayed. As you can see, each type involves different key players in the immune system and leads to very different kinds of problems. Let's break them down one by one. First, we've got type I, the A for allergic or anaphylactic. This is our peanut allergy. The key thing here is that it's immediate. We're talking minutes. Your body produces these IgE antibodies that latch onto special cells called mast cells. The next time you see that allergen, those mast cells basically detonate, dumping a massive amount of histamine into your system, and that's what causes that classic sudden allergic reaction. All right, on to the C in our ACID mnemonic, cytotoxic. And it means exactly what it sounds like, toxic to cells. Here, the problem is that your antibodies, a different kind called IgG and IgM, are directly targeting and attacking your body's own healthy cells. This is what happens in a mismatched blood transfusion or in certain autoimmune diseases, where the immune system is literally destroying its own tissues.
Now, this brings us back to our lupus example. This is a classic type 3 or immune complex reaction. So in this case, the antibodies and the things they're targeting, the antigens, clump together into these little troublemaker packages. These clumps are supposed to be cleared out, but instead they get stuck in tiny blood vessels, like in your joints or your kidneys, and that's what kicks off all that chronic inflammation and damage. And finally, we land on type 4, the D for delayed. This is our poison ivy rash. And the big twist here? This reaction isn't driven by antibodies at all. No, this is the T cell show, and it takes time. A good 48 to 72 hours for those T cells to march over to the site, get activated, and cause the inflammation that we eventually see as that blistering rash.
Okay, so that's the science, the 4 categories, but what does this actually look like out in the real world, in a clinic or an emergency room? One of the biggest, most obvious ways you can tell these apart is just the clock. A type 1 reaction is an emergency that is happening right now. A type 4 reaction is that slow burn that might not even show up for a couple of days. And understanding that timing is absolutely critical for figuring out what's going on and how to treat it.
And for a severe type 1 reaction, that timing is everything. It is an all-hands-on-deck situation. You can see from this emergency protocol, the first thing you do is stop whatever's causing it. Then you're not waiting around. You're checking vital signs every 5 minutes, you're calling the provider, and you're getting emergency meds like an antihistamine ready to go. It is a true race against the clock.
But here's where things get really clever. We can actually use one of these reactions to our advantage. The classic TB skin test is a perfect example. A doctor injects a tiny bit of tuberculosis protein under your skin and then tells you to come back in 2 or 3 days. Why? Because they are looking for that delayed T-cell reaction. A positive test, that little red bump, is a type 4 hypersensitivity in action, and it tells doctors your immune system has seen TB before.
So why does any of this matter? Why bother learning these 4 types? Well, it's because this simple framework is the key to understanding a huge, huge range of diseases and conditions.
So let's just boil it all down. The big takeaway is that so many conditions that seem totally unrelated, from a peanut allergy to lupus to a poison ivy rash, are all caused by the same basic problem, the immune system overreacting. That ACID framework helps us sort out these mistakes. And understanding the type is what explains everything. Why one is a sudden emergency, while another is a slow, delayed problem.
And that really leaves us with a pretty big, thought-provoking question, doesn't it? Our immune systems are incredible learning machines, but sometimes they just learn the wrong lesson. So if they can be taught to overreact so dramatically, the really exciting question for the future of medicine is this: can we find a way to reteach them? Could we teach them to calm down and to tolerate the very things they're mistakenly attacking now? Just thinking about the possibilities is pretty amazing.